What did you make of it so far? People are saying this is already a bit of a success, given just the optimism from both sides and the optics.
It is a success compared to where we were 3 months ago, of course, where there was a Twitter war and a risk, some people say, of an actual military escalation. So no doubt it's a success. When you're in a situation like this, where the two have met face to face, shaken hands, and the two teams, just as importantly, are now in regular direct contact with each other and not having to go through all sorts of back channels and intermediaries, that sets the stage for all of the work that now has to be done on a tactical, on a functional level, and that is going to begin. Let's remember, this is actually not only about denuclearization. That is what the White House wants. That is what the United States official policy is. But there's a three-way chicken and egg issue here that has to be sorted out. Denuclearization is one part of the solution. There's also reunification. And then there's also issues around ending the Korean War.
Right.
So there's a three-legged stool here, but all three parts depend on each other. The U.S. wants denuclearization, but North Korea won't fully denuclearize until the United States has withdrawn forces from South Korea, about 30,000 troops. The United States isn't going to do that until you have some kind of verification of denuclearization. So these things all have to be moved incrementally together, step by step.
So is there any kind of value then if we get some type of peace treaty that officially ends the war, but with no commitment to denuclearization?
So the peace treaty, which really has to happen, of course, between North and South Korea, so that will be one of the next steps, is going to have to include clauses around A, the United States withdrawing forces gradually, because North Korea will set that as a condition. It will say we will not have a peace treaty ending the war, nor talk of reunification if our joint country is still occupied by forces that we have for more than 70 years been declaring to be hostile, right, and aggressive. So that has to be part of it. And then, of course, South Korea has taken the view, more in line with the United States, that there does have to be denuclearization in terms of actual verifiable dismantling of the North Korean arsenal. However, I think there could be some trump cards in here, pardon the pun, one of which is that perhaps North Korea is going to say, wait a minute, this nuclear deterrent that we now have is to be shared. It is a pan-Korean nuclear deterrent, if you will. It is our common nuclear arsenal. We shouldn't give it up. And let's remember historically, once countries test nuclear weapons, once they have a verified nuclear arsenal and deterrent, such as India, Pakistan, and others, they are not really so quick to give it up. So that negotiation is going to take a very long time.
Parag, what historical precedent do you look for as a bit of a scenario base case for how this could play out? Because there aren't really a lot of countries in history that have developed nuclear weapons and then on their own volition decided to dismantle them. I mean, South Africa is one of the few that comes to mind, 1989. Is there any comparisons that you can draw?
Another comparison that's also made is Ukraine, a country that was hosting Soviet nuclear warheads and then decided to give them up, or rather transfer them back to Russia as part of an agreement with the United States, also around securing that fissile material and those nuclear warheads. Those precedents, I think, are of limited utility, and that's, again, just the issue of denuclearization. We should also talk about reunification, where I have a view that gradually, if you do open the demilitarized zone, allow it to be a more fluid border, have a removal of sanctions, have the kind of industrial activity at the industrial parks and so forth between them, then you would have a quasi-unified country. You would still have two separate countries for quite a while. But you would have two functional capitals, if you will, with Pyongyang administering, if you will, all of the rehabilitation that needs to happen in the northern provinces of this more or less united country. In the case of East and West Germany, it was exactly 1 year. From the day the Berlin Wall fell on November 9th, 1989, till their day of reunification, October 3rd, 1990, is about a year. In this case, I foresee a sort of North and South Korea coexisting with a relatively open border, integrating their currencies and other kinds of institutions, finding ways for their militaries to dialogue. By the way, this is, of course, a best-case scenario. And having two capitals, that will probably last for 5 years, if not longer, before you could actually imagine a day where you have one unified Korean state.